account late when you've always paid the account on time? What's wrong with the balance and what account number and so forth? I literally had that happen to me. I think I discussed it before. I had this happen on a student loan. It said that I was 30 days late on a student loan. There was no way I could be 30 days late because I was literally in school when it happened. So my loans would have been in deferment. This was a hassle. I told a credit report company. Then they said, well, you have to call the creditor. I got a hold of the creditor, which was Citigroup. And finally, after 90 days, they made the correction on the report. And all it is for one little box that says 30 days late. So sometimes it's very difficult to do, but you have to do it to get rid of it because things like student loans, they do not want to see late payments on it, okay? Your account that has to be closed are being reopened, that you closed are being reopened or supported. Be sure the credit report indicates that you, not the other creditors, closed the account. Otherwise, it'll appear as if the accounts were closed because you didn't keep up with your payments. Now, this is extremely important, and be careful for any of you. Let's say you had a credit card, ABC, what a bank, just making it up. And you were young and you had a credit balance on it of $500, and eventually you didn't pay it and it went to collections. And then all of a sudden, a couple years later, maybe 4 or 5 years later, you get another application for ABC Bank. And you forgot you even had a credit card with them. You forgot what happened. You open up that account again and be careful. They could bring that old balance into the new balance you just opened and extend the due date of that bill and reissue it. Be careful when you're opening new accounts. Also, make sure that if it is reported, that it's that you closed the credit account instead of them. There's a million reasons you can explain why you've closed accounts, and I have too. I argued one time with a credit card company because I didn't want to pay the fee for the yearly fee. They wouldn't remove it. I told them to close the account. It looked negative towards me instantly towards my availability of credit, and my points dropped a couple of points, but at that point I refused to pay them anymore. So these are the type of things you can explain. If they close it, it's usually because you didn't make a payment. All right, debts that your spouse acquired prior to your marriage are in your credit history. Get rid of them. You are not responsible for them. That is something that you're going to have to use the letters that I've given that are on the resource page on destroyyourdebt.org, and we'll talk about that. Though there's a special section on how to fill those letters out. That needs to be sent in. That stuff needs to be removed. The debt should not appear in your credit file because they are your spouse's individual debts, so you have no responsibility for paying them. Okay, so get that stuff out of there. Negative information that's too old to be reported, it's still in your credit report. And most of this information and can be reported for 7 years, although some types of information can be reported for longer. And here it shows Chapter 1 explains how to log various types of negative information can pertain into your files. That is described not Chapter 1, but that would have been Chapter 1 of our discussions. And what it means is that if it has been in there for over 7 years, in some cases, some states it's 4, but 7 years, send them a letter. They will remove it out of your credit report. Okay, this is important to get this stuff cleaned off of your file. Accounts that were turned over to a collection agency listed twice. This happens all the time. You have to be very careful with paying bills, especially to collection agencies. They sell your debt. If you pay them twice, you're not going to get your money back. So you need to be careful. You need to make sure this stuff is updated. I know sometimes the accounts are different. You need to figure out whether or not it is your account and whether or not you've paid it. And we'll discuss this in detail a little bit later to talk about how to get that removed off of your credit report when you pay it. Or the information is incomplete and your credit history doesn't tell you the whole story about something in your credit file. For example, it doesn't reflect the fact that you paid off your mortgage. You make sure that the information in your credit report is accurate, complete, and so forth, because people who are looking at it, they'll look at your score. They don't just give up there. If your score is borderline, they're going to go through your credit report, and if you can get all of this stuff cleaned up and taken off, they can look at your credit report and say, well, their score isn't that high, but there's nothing on their credit report, so maybe they just don't have a lot of credit history or so forth. So maybe they're more likely than seeing 50 accounts that have been paid and closed and given up on other accounts. So these are the things that we have to look at to try to get cleaned up. You want that report clean. You want just the things that are open and running with a long history, and that will drive your credit report score up. All right, now disputes. This is how you get rid of some of this stuff. You dispute it. You dispute it and here's the links. You got 3 links here: one to Experian, one to TransUnion, and one to Equifax. Now, there's a key here. You can go online to these websites and dispute something online, but there's only a certain amount of codes and a certain amount of things you can dispute online. If you use a typed letter, and under the website, the Destroy Your Debt resource tab, there are credit letters, there are templates, so you don't even have to write the letter completely itself. You're going to have to change some information. Like I said, watch that sub-chapter class, that little class on how to do it. But if you write a typed out letter, there's more likelihood that you will get this dispute taken off of. Okay, so try to keep the letter to 1 page. If your letter is longer than 1, the page information on other pages may never get read. Well, you remember, it's a person reading this. Also, do not handwrite your letter because your writing may not be clear, and they have every right to just throw it away. Also, form letters that you may receive from a website where you just type in your name and so forth, they're not even going to get read. Okay, if they see that form letter. So it's important that you adjust this around so it looks a little different. So even if you're using the letters that I use, this is just a template. What you want to do is change that template around and make sure that this is going to work out for you. When disputing, never admit they are your addresses, that they're your debt, and address them as alleged debt. Okay, once you've admitted it's yours, then they're more likely not to negotiate or be able to dispute it. So these are alleged debts. And when you're disputing something, don't dispute something that you know is your debt. It's unethical to do. We can work with getting that and negotiating that in a different process to get that taken off and paid off. But don't try to dispute things that are yours and you knowingly know they are yours, because it's just unethical. And I'm a big believer in karma. That's why I'm doing this class. I hope that you're a believer in karma too. So you screwed up. Not a big deal. You didn't pay your bill. We can negotiate that bill down in a later session when we settle the debt. But if it is yours, take accountability for your actions and pay it off. And it's not a big deal, okay, in the scheme of things, but karma-wise, it's probably be better off for you to pay that off. Okay, so let's say you found everything that's not right on there. You disputed it. Things that are on there that were your spouse's, or they were over 7 years, or they just weren't yours. They were just wrong. You got in that section cleared up. Now we're going to move to settling your debts. Okay, which means that you have a debt out there. Maybe it's a doctor bill. Maybe it's a old credit card bill. Maybe it is a bill to Hinckley and Schmidt as I look at my water cooler here. Maybe you owe them money. I don't know. It really doesn't matter, but we're going to try to settle that. And this is where we can get it removed completely. Okay, so this is where you're going to have to work on negotiation skills. If you need to go get a book on negotiations, fine. But whatever you decide to do, stay firm and, work with them. And you can do it. So how do we do this? Well, we have to consider this process to be already behind on your payment, right? The creditor will only be settled with people that are 3 or 6 months behind. If you're not 3 or 6 months behind, you're not going to be able to do it. And this already affected your credit score. It's gone down. It's usually, if it's been the collections, it's easier to negotiate or settle. But if it's with the company itself, there you might be able to work something out. So what we need to do is get all your debts together and organized. So you'll need to know what you owe and who you owe it to. All right. So once we've done that, and a lot of that will be on your credit report, whether it's a revolving account or if it's accounts closed, You'll have to set this up and decide which one you're going to work on. And remember, Rome was not built in a day. This stuff can be exhausting. If you do a little bit every day, you can slowly build it back up. You didn't destroy your credit in one day, but you're not going to be able to rebuild it in one day either. But these are the things that you have to do. Set yourself little goals. I'm gonna negotiate one a day, two a day, one a week, two a week, till I get them all taken care of. And this is what you're going. This is the process of doing it. First thing, save up about 35 to 50% of what the debt is, and then give them a call. And what I'm saying here is, when you go through destroy your debt, the first thing you should do in destroy your debt, that if either you've taken that course or you're going to take the course, is build yourself a little safety net. And in this case, you'll use that safety net as you practice on how to do the snowball effect. You'll build up a safety net. Let's say you have 50% of it. Okay, that's what the debt settlement is. You'll see that on TV. Debt settlement people. They're doing it for you, and it's not that hard to do. You can do this yourself. Plus, you have more to lose. It's your debt, so you're more likely to be able to cut a better deal. Okay? It's you calling them and telling them you cannot pay them a lump sum. You can pay them a lump sum, but you cannot pay them the total amount. So, what, they'll consider the debt paid. This is important. You'll pay as much as you can pay, and we're going to negotiate that. But you want it under the conditions that will say that it is considered paid. All right? Also, remember, I'll try to remember as much as you as possible. You're working with the business. So remember that the negotiation part that starts with less than you could actually afford, and negotiate from there. So start by telling them you have 20% of what you owe them and work from there and see what you can do. Now, this is the important part, okay? You start low, and they're going to come back. It's just like a negotiate. So you're negotiating back and forth with people, okay? You say 20%, they say 90%, 95. You say I can go up to 25, they say 90. Well, what are you going to get out of that? The most important thing to get out of this is when you're settling, is that they will agree to have it removed from your credit file if you pay that amount. So sometimes it's worth paying more money just to get that removed from your credit report. Okay? So remember, when you make the call, make sure you're calling the right company. Geez, the last thing you want to do is call the wrong company that you owe money to. Only work with the most recent creditor or collection agency on each debt. A lot of times these are sold down and over again, and these credit collection agencies pay pennies on the dollar, which means for $100 in the debt they might pay, or for every dollar you have on debt, they may pay 5 cents or 10 cents, maybe 20 cents. That's pretty expensive, 20 cents on a dollar, but they may be paying that, and therefore they'll be more likely to negotiate with you because there's more squeeze room for them. They're still going to make a profit on it. So then the ones who currently own a debt, you want to find out who they are and then negotiate with it to report the payment to the credit bureaus if it's paid. If the best case scenario is that they will agree to have it removed from the credit bureau if you pay that amount. Again, I can't overemphasize enough to make sure you get in writing before you send off any money. Do not pay them over the phone that day. Once you've come up to this agreement, you say, all right, that's the agreement. I can pay you today. Well, once you send me the bill with all these stipulations on there that you promised to do this, I will then pay you immediately. They will then put that together and send it to you. Make sure you read it when you get it, but do not pay over the phone. Also, never pay with a check from your checking account. The bottom line is you don't want these companies to know your account information or even what bank you bank with. Always pay with a cashier's check or a money order. Okay, it's not only is it embarrassing, but it could eventually work with them if they get a case on you to put a lien on you. They know what kind of money, what bank you work with, they know what type of money you have. The less information they have, the better. Okay, most likely you're taking this case because you are broke, so you don't have to worry